How's it going, OFPs? And welcome to another episode of the Off-Field Players Podcast, the only podcast for aspiring sports industry professionals. I'm your host, Philip Hall. And OFPs, I just have one question and one question only to ask you. Did you miss me? Because I know it's been a while since, the last time I did an episode. Of course, with, if you follow me on social media, you know that I've been busy, with work and, just finally able to find some time open to get back to doing episodes for the Off-Field Players podcast, and really just also taking some time to come up with some new ideas. But mostly that time that I've been away on hiatus has been due to work. And I guess kind of going a little bit more on just the direction of the podcast is still going to be around. It's not going anywhere. Trust me. It's probably going to just be more of like an off-season thing, especially with where my career is going in regards to working in the sports industry, and also just making sure that I keep up with work and just, overall day-to-day lifestyle. But the podcast is definitely going to be here to stay. So no worries there. Definitely want to continue to making episodes, continue to bring on people for informational interviews, continue to, give people insight on updates happening across the sports industry, business related, stadium related, team related, athlete related, you name it. I'm trying to keep it going. Again, this OFP training stopping in no time soon. So definitely be able to look out for upcoming episodes as, time goes on, as well as also me having some more time open. So yeah, just want to provide that update. Sorry I've been away for so long, but I am back, and I'm back in a big way, as today I'm actually going to be restarting my free agent series. So if you've been longtime followers of the Off-Field Players podcast, you probably knew about episode that I did about a while ago, late last year, where I brought on Miles Jenkins for free agent series. Miles was a recent graduate of Marshall University, and he, came on for an informational interview just to talk more about himself, as well as also, express his interest for what kind of job he was looking for in the sports industry. And the purpose for me of doing that for starting the free agent series was I wanted to highlight recent or soon to be college graduates that probably weren't having, much success in like securing interviews or securing any job openings for jobs in the sports industry. But I just want to bring them on to promote them, to give them like a genuine presentation of who they are as a person, what their career interests are, and also try to use this as a way to help promote their brand or their personal brand as they continue to go through the job process and finding employment in the sports industry, either before graduation or sometime after graduation. So that's what we're going to be doing today, as today I have a very, very special guest coming on. She is a soon-to-be graduate from the University of Nevada, Reno, a Roseville, California native. She actually just drove down from Nevada on campus, just taking some time at home before graduation day. But it's definitely great to have her on, and it's definitely great to just have her share her experience in the sports industry and what her career goals are going forward. So ladies and gentlemen, OFPs, allow me to introduce to the Off-Field Players podcast, Miss Kailee Bryant. How are you, Kailee?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. It's definitely a pleasure having you here, Kailee, on the podcast. And even just with you and me connecting, just connecting with the work that you've been doing at the University of Nevada, Reno, and, just also, just reaching out, the number one thing that I emphasize a lot to the OFPs is, being able to network. And your networking skills were over the top when you reached out to me, and just being curious about, what it's like to work in video content, sports media, and even just, trying to find some insight on how to get jobs in the sports industry. So Kailee, it's definitely a pleasure having you on. And I guess for the OFPs to kind of learn a little bit more about who you are, just give a quick introduction about who you are, like where are you from, what did you study at Nevada, and also, what has been your sports experience like to this point so far.
Awesome. Thank you, Philip, again for having me. It's a pleasure. Hi, everyone. Again, my name is Kailee Bryant. I am a senior upcoming graduate, actually, like Philip was saying, from the University of Nevada, Reno. A little bit about me, an introduction, I guess you can say, is I am from Roseville, California. So about 30 minutes, however, fast everyone drives nowadays, from Sacramento. So home of the land right there. So I am from California, and I obviously go to school in Nevada. It's actually quite funny. So I am a journalism major, but how Nevada kind of works is we have strictly just a journalism field. Like you have, and then you go into your emphasis. So my emphasis is news and broadcasting because one day I do want to be a sports reporter. That's my goal in life. So I do have a Bachelor of Arts degree in journalism and an emphasis in news and sports broadcasting while having a minor in communication. So that's always been kind of my happiness, I guess you could say, because a lot of journalism majors, I guess you could say, minor in sports, marketing or sports management, stuff like that. But again, I didn't take the easy route. A lot of people are like, communications is like, that's a really easy minor or major. And I'm like, you know what? Like, it is, but it's like something that I feel like everyone needs to have. So that's kind of how I distinguished like what I actually need and what I think I can use going forward. I do have a younger sister, she's also in college as well, but she's in a community college right now, looking to transfer in the next year. And yeah, so that's a little bit about me. I mean, I don't know what else to say.
Well, I think you said quite enough there, Kaylee. And yeah, it's definitely great that, you going in with the emphasis in journalism with sports studies. I know for me, speaking on my behalf, I went to school for sport management, shout out to St. John's University, alma mater. And also had it was majoring in sport management, but also a concentration in business administration because I knew that, for me going into the sports industry, I want to, have that knowledge of sports, but I also want to have the knowledge of sports from a business perspective. And I think, with the direction that sports is going, the sports industry is going these days, with new stadiums being talked about being built, different marketing campaigns that are happening, TV deals, for sports networks that are trying to, help promote particular sports leagues that are trying to get more viewership as well as promote more large scale events. It's definitely something to have for sure. Like if for any of the OFPs that are still in school, still trying to, learn more about the industry. So Kaylee, it's definitely awesome to hear about your experience in journalism. And we're going to touch on that as we go forward here, because, if you go follow Kailee Bryant on Instagram or see any of her work on LinkedIn, trust me, folks, like her talent is second to none as far as what she does. But again, I'm not going to spoil. I'm not going to spoil too much for her because I want her to share her experience, going forward. But Kaylee, just to kind of get more or learn more about your introduction into sports, like what would you say was your first introduction to sports when you were coming up?
So it's actually funny that you bring that up because here I am sitting in my dad's baseball room. Everything around me is baseball and some type of sport. So I always was involved with sports growing up, whether that be the simplest thing of going to a game or watching someone else play, whatnot. But I actually lived in the moment of going through different sports phases and like, I guess you can say breaking down what sports actually truly means to people. So it was embedded in me, I guess you can say, as why sports are such a big thing. My dad actually he played a lot of sports in high school. His high school team actually won the championship for their high school,
Oh wow.
Foothill High School. For those that are from
Okay.
Sac or Roseville, you would know what that is, what school that is. But he actually won the championship, and then he also played baseball. And so that has always been a constant thing, like of okay, if we're not watching, baseball, we're watching basketball. So anything on the TV was baseball or basketball. So it was embedded, it was in me, and I was constantly watching it. And it also helps that in high school I was very, very involved, and even in my previous years before high school, I was so intrigued to know, what I'm good at, what sports I'm good at, what fits Kailee Bryant in a way. So I actually played basketball, soccer, golf, track, all those different kinds of sports. I do love running. Fun fact of the day, everybody. I do love running. So that has always been my favorite sport, I guess you could say, track and field. So I was also very intrigued with how that kind of works. And if I'm good at that, should I play, in college, or should I, try and get a scholarship somewhere? So that always was a big thing too, as well. And it also helps that, my mom actually used to be a dancer, and my sister used to do all
Hmm.
these different kinds of things too, softball, soccer, and all these different kinds of sports. So it was in our family. It was in our blood. We wake up every day thinking about, oh, what competition are we going to today, or what sport do we have today on the list? So it definitely was. It was in there in the Bryant family, as sports is the number one concept. So for sure.
I mean, definitely awesome to hear, and it sounds like you come from a very athletic background as well. You mentioned your dad playing baseball. Well, I guess to kind of go a little bit more about your dad, did he play in college, or did he have a shot going to the pros, or what was his journey like?
So he actually did have a chance to play in college, but unfortunately, just the life, how everything works out. He didn't choose that route, but
Mm.
ever since that, like, he collects baseball cards, and he everything.
Nice.
Like, if I could show you this room and give you a tour right now, that there would be so many baseball cards, so many baseball antiques. Old things are probably worth so much money nowadays, just because it's so vintage, and it's like, older, and it has a lot of meaning to it. So, yeah, I mean, he didn't go to play in college or the pros, but he definitely holds that in his heart still, that, maybe I should have done that. Maybe I should have went a different route. But let me tell you, that
Mm.
man knows everything about baseball, and he will call you out, if something is wrong. So,
I bet he does. I mean, like baseball was my sport growing up. That was well, next to NASCAR, my next love was baseball. It was, played since I was 6, played all the way up through high school, and just enjoyed the sport for what it was. And I still get a kick out going to baseball games these days. And well, I guess I should ask, like, well, who was your team growing up?
So we're big San Francisco Giants fans. So, yeah, for
Okay.
those Dodger fans listening, it's a little sensitive, but hey, we love every sporting team, but the San Francisco Giants are our number one, and have always been.
Well, I'm from the opposite side of the bay, so I grew up watching the A's, and this again, franchise going through a lot right now, but again, that can only say so much. But yeah, I mean, definitely great to hear, and also just your involvement in sports, because really, what I hear when it comes to speaking with OFPs or future OFPs is that it always starts with what sport they played up, because and that introduction had to come from somewhere, as you saying, like, about your dad, your mom, and even your sister, being involved in athletics. It goes to show that the influence of becoming an OFP or an off-field player, does stem from that upbringing, growing up in sports. And I guess, just to touch a little bit more onto it, going into, say, your high school years and even your college years, as you're about to, round the corner heading to graduation, like, what experience, whether that was in high school or college, did you see yourself wanting to work in the sports industry?
So this is actually quite a story too. So ever since I was, grew up and go through the phase and the cycle of life, you kind of sit back, and before you get into college, and before you accept to college, and before you, choose a major, you're like, what do I want to do? And so that has always
Hmm.
been the hardest question for me personally to ask myself, because you have so much confidence in yourself to be like, oh, I'm going to be a sports reporter one day, but it's like you always have those self-doubts. So I actually struggled with that. So during my I guess, the senior year of high school, you would say, I actually was a nursing major. So there is a high rep in
Hmm.
my family of, you be a nurse, you get paid good, and you get to help people, and you get to do all these things. So, and a lot of family members in my family
Hmm.
are nurses. So it is like, it upholds you to be like those people, especially if you do look up to them. It's like, well, shoot, then maybe I should be a nurse. So that was a struggle, because in the back of my head, I love sports. Again, I love it. I could wake up every day and just think about, like, what I'm going to do about, like, what am I going to watch on TV about sports? But I always thought, and this has been a struggle with me, and I always was like, I'm never going to be good like that. I can't talk well. I talk too fast. I'm loud. I'm crazy loud, like where it gets, to like, I always have these doubts in my head. So that's also why I didn't choose journalism, because not just did, you want to be like your family, you want to make good money, you want to be able to provide, it was also that self
Mm,
doubt of, will I ever be good enough to do those things? Will I ever be good enough to stand out? And so that was really hard for me. And I I go through freshman year, I'm taking prereqs and getting familiar with what I'm doing with nursing. And I'm a great student. I go to every class, but it came down to a certain extent of like, okay, well, I got to be on a test. And I wasn't proud of that. Like, I wasn't like, wow,
mm,
that was so good. Like, let's go to class tomorrow and do it again, kind of thing. Or I would get an A on a test. I never felt like that was good for me, just because I knew I wasn't passionate about it. And if you're not passionate about something, then you need to, you need to sit down and have a talk with yourself, because you don't want to wake up every day saying, why am I doing this job? You want to wake up every day saying, I can't wait to go to work. And that was something that I had to think
absolutely.
about. And that's something I had to go through the process, and go and just be like, I'm not in the right state of mind of being a nurse. Like, I love helping people. I love doing that. Does everyone like making money? Heck yeah, they do. But that's not the point. And I think as a freshman, you are still gullible. You are still learning, you're still growing. And so you don't really know, and you don't take an account of like, that's not what happiness is about. Like, you don't want to wake up again being unhappy and then like worrying about, oh, am I going to be able to get groceries this week? Like, that is something that I had to deal with. It was definitely a change of adversity for sure. But in sophomore year, I was like, I had to sit down and talk to my parents, and I was like, guys, like, I don't think I'm in the right, I'm not in the right Kailee Bryant zone. Like, this is not myself. And I said,
Mm,
I very emotional. Obviously, you're like, I don't want to be, I don't want to graduate late. I don't want to, get held back an extra year, push back because, you're not doing all your classes or whatnot. So yeah, like that was tough as well. But I knew that if this was something I wanted to do, and I wanted to try to succeed at it and be, who I want to be one day, you got to do what you want. Like, you got to do what your heart tells you to do. So I did transfer, or switch majors to journalism. And I got really familiar with our journalism program at my school, and I started to fall in love. Like, I would wake up, and for those who are journalism majors, or um any any emphasis, I guess you can say, whether that's PR or whatever you choose in journalism, that test. And if we do, it's more writing, it's more like write a sports article or write a breaking news story. Like, it's not really test. And so at the time, I knew that I'm a good writer. I knew it. I was like, that's my confidence. Like, if I have such confidence I'm a good writer, then I should be proud of my work. So um I obviously was getting familiar with the journalism program, and the first test, I guess you say writing test, came along, and I was like, I'm gonna fail this. Like, I'm new to the program. I had no friends. Like, all my friends again were nursing majors. So here I am,
mm,
oddball out, because I'm like, am I, again, am I choosing the right thing? And I got my test back, and all the comments, like, obviously I love feedback. I eat that up. I love feedback. I love negative feedback. You know what? Like, you like that. And I got all these
mhm,
comments. I'm like, whoa, like, this is not something I'm used to at all. Like, when you're using the wrong there, Kaylee, or you're using the wrong and I'm like, oh no, this is real life. But I still got a B. And I was like, you know what? I'm
mhm.
actually proud of this, because this is something I'm genuinely wanting to learn more and grow. So that's when I knew I fell in love with journalism, and the aspect of, you know what, if I do want to be that sports reporter one day, which is Erin Andrews, everyone knows that about me. I love Erin Andrews. But if I want to be like her one day,
She's a
oh
legend.
yes, like
She's a legend.
everything I do is like, I always say, do it because I want to be like Erin Andrews. I look up to her so much. So if I'm doing all these tests and all these writing, it's like you just fall in love with it more, because the more feedback, the more good bad grades you get, it's just going to keep pushing you to keep going. So that's when I knew I fell in love with the whole aspect of journalism and sports and writing and all that stuff.
Yeah, and Kelly, just with the field that you're in, journalism, it's a very, like at the same time competitive, but also rewarding field because, you just think about the different storylines that you can come up with. Because, I've always been someone that was infatuated with reading sports articles, reading, books about, that were written by, sports journalists, sports reporters, commentators, and just hearing the different stories and the different interviews that they were able to convey throughout their careers and just seeking inspiration from that. It was definitely, something that really helped me in just getting that influence. And it sounds like from what, you were able to do, just making that transition from nursing to journalism. Again, it's a big transition. You're
Yeah,
going from medical to the writing field. And, it's, again, it's not very common to hear when you think about people switching majors. And,
exactly.
just for you to adjust well to it and understood for yourself that, you like this is where you know that you belong. That's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a testament to your willpower, like the sacrifice you're able to make, and also just not being so much attached to like you mentioned, like the monetary gain for what you want to go to school to major in. Because yes, like everybody is trying to make money, especially these days with how out of whack the economy
Yes.
is. But again, that's a discussion for another time. But but yeah, I guess speaking on behalf of our generation, because you and me are both Gen Z, and we always, or I guess now we're starting to realize, okay, like there's an importance of, yes, it's important to make money. Yes, it's important to go to school for a degree that's going to pay off. Yes, it's important to understand like what we want out of a work environment or a work experience when building our careers. But at the same time, though, you also want to take care of your mental state as well. Just being in a field where you're passionate about, as well as also waiting for the big reward to pay off. And it sounds like that's something that you were able to realize as a freshman. I mean, like most freshmen can't even say that.
Yeah. Well, actually, a lot of people would tell me too, like, Kaylee, like, do you realize how many people switch majors? And I'm like, in the back of my head, like, I'm a very straight up, modest person. Like, if I, have something to say, I'm going to say it. And it's like, I didn't believe that because I don't believe that everyone just switches their majors just to switch it. I think that people switch it for a reason. I believe that people,
Hmm.
if it doesn't even matter what it is, if you're going from business to communications, obviously there's a reason why you're switching. Maybe business is not the way for you and you want to go to communications, because I don't think a lot of people realize, but there's a lot of communications jobs out there. And anything you do, I feel like that you really like have to do it for yourself. And I don't think people just be like, oh yeah, Kaylee just switched her major. Like, she wanted to be a nurse though, guys. But I didn't though. Like, that's why I switched, because I've always knew I wanted to be a sports reporter or something to do in the sports field. So it's like, no, I switched it for a good reason. So I totally agree what you're saying.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's in the blood. I mean, like your whole family pretty much like embraces sports and the fun of it. So, I mean, I'm sure it wasn't a shock for them when you decide to do
Yeah.
that. but yeah, but Kaylee, just going a little more further, and like you mentioned how you saw importance like in the classroom as well as also your involvement outside the classroom, which is something I emphasize a lot for the OFPs to do, at least for the ones that are still in school. Like, hey, don't get too attached to the schoolwork. Also be able to be involved outside of your school. I know for me, it was through sports broadcasting. That was something I attached myself to outside the classroom. Same with podcasting. It's obvious,
Yeah.
for where I've taken it now. But I just want to know, in regards to you, like what habits did you start for yourself that helped contribute to your work ethic to succeed in school and your career starting out?
So like you said, like, it's not all about the school. It's not about the schoolwork. So I hated school. In high school, there's nothing to hide, because this is truly how I feel. And like, you have to speak, how you feel, or like what, you go through. But I honestly I was so involved with school in high school. I was senior class president. So school was probably like, it
Hmm.
was just like, I obviously, enjoyed it. I loved high school, but when it came to grades or tests, I did struggle. I did. And not to the point of like, oh, you guys probably think like she failed. No, I didn't fail, but like, I did struggle, and I just didn't like school. So me going to college was huge. Like, I was like, I don't know if I can do this. I'm not the smartest cookie there is. Um, but I fell in love with school, and it's all because of the journalism program. And again,
Mm.
I thought I was going to be all hands on deck on school, like worry about assignments. But those assignments and how well I did in those classes came from what I started and the habits I started for myself. And some of those habits and skills, I guess you can say, that I started for myself was I love athletes. I love the athletic mindset. I love their story. So what I did was again, journalism is a very male dominated field. A lot of my friends are
Mhm.
males. So, and I actually, again, I'm very, what's the word? Outgoing. So I'm not afraid to talk to somebody. And I had to meet friends like that. And that's what I learned going into that program, because you don't have the nursing students. You don't have the mechanical
Mm.
engineering students. You have journalism students. So those are going to be your friends, and those are going to be your competitors later on in the future. So I did make friends with those people, and I had a solid little four boy group, and I was the only girl. And we made a podcast, and it's cool because my teacher at our school, he has a podcast class, and then he also as well has a sports reporting class that we were all in
Wait, wait.
together. So yeah, we
Oh, wait, I'm gonna cut you off, Kaylee,
had
but you said a podcast class?
yes, podcast class. It was awesome. Best class I've ever taken.
What?
Uh,
Yeah, wish I had that.
I know. It's actually new, so let's take a moment because that
Mm.
was new, so not a lot of students got to do it. But so we all have those classes together, basically every single class, because a lot of my guy friends want to be sports beat writers, or want to be sports
Mm.
reporters, or sports commentators. So we all had something kind of similar. And here I am, the only girl. So obviously there's a lot of high expectations for not just them, but myself as well, when it comes to talking sports or talking stats or talking to athletes about thinking that what you know. And I brought up the idea of let's do a once a week a podcast highlighting a different athlete, and they loved the idea. Obviously they were
Mm.
like yes, yes, yes. And there was some self-doubt again, and I kind of got off some things from them. Like sometimes they're like, oh, I hope they think that I know my stuff. Like I hope they think that I know my stats, my how to
Mhm.
pronounce names correctly, because that's a big thing. And I strongly push that, because if someone, if you say an athlete's name wrong, or even someone that you're talking to, that's not a good look. And so I was always big on that. And
Mm.
we started podcasts, and we would highlight a player every week. And it started off with basketball because they were in off season, so it's a lot easier to talk to those athletes when they're in off season. And so, we would have a different one from the team. We usually like switch from position to position, shooting guard, point guard, and post, whatever. So it was very different every week. Some players obviously are not very comfortable. They don't really like the media, or they don't like to be, talk, which is, that they're athlete. That's fine. But we did do that, and
Mm.
we loved it, and we started posting it. It's called our school's like podcast and like media, I guess you can say, like platform is called Reynolds Hotbox and Sandbox, Reynolds
Mm.
Sandbox. It's on Instagram, Spotify, all those things. So we started having our teacher post those, and so we can try and get ourselves out there. And we try to put it to the athletic department, and put it on their YouTube, and just so that, not just so our voices can be heard, because we don't really like we don't care, like our voices will be heard one way or another, but it's more of like those people that are behind those doors of what is Keenan Blackshear actually like? Like, what does he like to eat before a game? Like, no one would know that if you didn't have an actual sit down conversation with them and actually dive into their life of where are you actually from? Like, all this stuff. So we started doing that, and that was super fun. And in the back of my head, I knew that wasn't enough though. Like that wasn't enough to, one, get my voice out there. That wasn't enough for me to kind of network myself in a way, because in all honesty, like just because you do podcasts, like that's great and that's awesome, but you always want something more. So
Right.
I also became the president of the J School, the journalism school. We call it the J School, the J
Mhm.
School. And so I became the president of the school, of the student council, because I was like, you know what? I loved student government in high school. Why not pass that down to college? So I did run for that spot, and I got it. And so I'm pleased to say that I am the president of the school, which is really nice because I do get to plan events. I do get to get
Hmm.
all the school involved, like our college and our alum, and then all of our teachers and all that stuff. So that's pretty, like, that was pretty fun too, and fun to say that I am the president of the school in a way. Um, and then I was like, still, Kaylee, that is not enough. And so thankfully, I grow. I don't know. There's something about me, and this is not me sounding like cocky or anything, but I have a way with my teachers. Um, I all my teachers, I can easily say, like, I'm like so close to them where it's to the point where I've gone to their offices crying, or I've gone into their offices like
Mhm.
literally complaining about like an assignment because I get so stressed out. I'm like, I don't want to do this wrong. I don't want a bad grade, all this stuff. And they'll be like, KB,
Mhm.
you got this. And like they'll help me. But I've gotten so close with them because I know that not just do they help me, but they can see that how dedicated, how passionate, how hardworking I am, and they want to see me succeed. So thankfully, from getting those connections and really getting close with my teachers, I've actually shout out to the J school because I've never had a bad teacher there. But from getting all those
Mhm.
connections and all those just helpful tips, I actually my teacher came across an email that was CC to him, and he was like, hey, like, one of the social media and marketing manager, and said that they're looking for a student that is going into sports broadcasting or sports media or whatever, sports and social media. And they were looking for a digital reporter. And I was like, in my head, I'm like, digital? I was
Mhm.
like, I want to be like in front of the camera. I want to be talking. I want to be just, like not center of attention, but center of attention. And so, I was like, you know
Mhm.
what? It doesn't hurt to go get an interview. So I actually sat down, with the social media, the head social media director, and then the marketing, and they kind of interviewed me on the spot, kind of thing. I was in school clothes. I was like, this is not Kailee Bryant, so I was a little stressed out. I was like, I'm not gonna get this.
Mhm.
Like, I'm not. And then I went in like very confident because I've always wanted to work for the athletic department, and I had my freshman year when I was a nursing major. Fun fact: I actually did work as a marketing assistant for the athletic department until we got a new AD, and so
Mhm.
everyone was kind of replaced and the communication was off. So I was just like, you know what, this is a lot on my plate, so I'm gonna leave, but hopefully I can come back later in my 4 years here. And thankfully this opportunity did come.
Mhm.
And so after I had the interview and talked to them, and they told me what I was going to be doing, I was like, you know what, like, I'm not sure if I like this because they never told me that I was going to be doing social media and stuff. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I'm very good at designing things like on Canva. I have Canva Pro. I love doing that stuff. I love running social media accounts. Like, I would love to do that, but in my back of my head, I'm like, that's not something I want to do. So then I told her, I was like, can I just have a couple of days just to see, like, if it fits in my school schedule next year? And so I said that because I didn't need to look at my school schedule. I was very shaken up and nervous to see like if I can do this. And turns to find out that I love it, and I can easily say that I have more skills than I thought I would be, like, by graduating. Um so so my title is social media and digital reporter assistant, and they call their interns
Mhm.
assistants because intern, I don't like the word, and they taught me not to like that word. So we're assistants, but guys, I'm actually an intern. But that's my role right now at the university until I graduate.
Oh, okay. So you're still gonna keep going with it until you walk the stage.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Oh, wow, okay. Well, I mean, it's definitely awesome to hear for sure, and even just from that story where you saw the tile digital and you're thinking, I don't know if that's me, but I think what is great now, especially in the journalism field. I mean, I can really only say so much about it just from like the connections I made. get like one of my roommates, old roommates from St. John's. We actually, still a good friend to this day. We call it St. John's games together. Jay Hollahan.
Oh,
He's like shout out to my buddy Jay. He like we did an episode together to talk about St. John's basketball, and even just what he does now. He does more of like independent work where he's doing podcasts. I mean, he's from around like the Northeast, kind of like that the tri-state area,
okay, yeah.
Delaware and Jersey and New York, Pennsylvania part of the country. And he's like he went to school for journalism in St. John's, and he's doing like podcasts talking about all the Philadelphia sports teams. He even has a podcast talking about the Baltimore sports teams. He does a St. John's podcast. He's doing radio work for University of Delaware's
Wow.
sports radio station. So, just doing those kind of things where you are getting into that digital space or that content space, and that's, a big testament to what you do for Nevada, because you just think about the landscape of sports. Most of it is really driven on the presence that an athletic program can have on their social media page. I'm sure, Nevada, they have like, they play in the Mountain West
Yeah.
Conference, high major conference, with big, like there's been some pretty big names that come out of Nevada,
Oh,
like
there
think
has.
about football, Colin Kaepernick,
Yeah. Gee.
basketball, like if you JaVale
Yeah.
McGee, came out in Nevada. Even like there's some well-known baseball players that came out in
Oh,
Nevada
yeah.
as well. And I just think about what you were able to produce for Nevada, just getting into that journalism space, having that combination of being a sports reporter as well as also the combination of understanding content. I
Exactly.
think when you combine those two, that's like that's a double whammy for what a program will want.
Exactly.
And actually, and just thinking about that alone, I want to go more into just the experience you had at University of Nevada. I know when we first connected, and started to follow you, like you were actually the face of the weekly sports reports for Nevada Athletics, where you would do sports reports and highlighting the teams, the athletic team's success on the court or on the field, and just having that be a weekly thing. Like if you could talk a little bit more about that with the OFPs, that would be
Yeah,
awesome.
of course. So, yeah, I didn't really go in because I was like, you know what, I'm gonna wait because I feel like I don't want to talk too much, but I'm glad that you asked that because so basically I am, they call it, it's actually funny you say that. I am the face of the pack. So that's what they call it. So every Monday, usually, it depends. So last term it was every Tuesday afternoon just because of school schedules and it does get a little darker earlier in the fall. So it was, we had to switch the time. So now it's every Monday. But every week I do a weekly sports recap, and obviously it depends on like what sports are going on during that season. So thankfully basketball was obviously during the fall, and so it was very compacted. It would always be compacted with some type of sports. Right now it's a little slower just because we do tennis just ended. So now we just have baseball and softball, which is great. But, I'm only recapping those as in right now because, we're coming to the end of a term. But when it is in the middle of the season or if it's in the middle of the term, things get hectic. And let me remind you that not just do I have to do the Wolfpack Weekly, I'm still running like social media, and I would go to the basketball games and run their Instagram account or the main university's account and post like content on there, whether that's like silly things like food stands, come check out the new pork sliders or whatnot. So I was very engaged with trying to balance all that out because my role is social media and digital reporter assistant. So I do the weekly recaps, but I guess you could say like every Sunday or Saturday evening whenever I have time, just because I am super busy. And I do travel home a lot just because there is stuff that I need to get done as well. I do make time to write the script. Everyone thinks I'm reading, like not reading, but like how do you remember all that information? It's like, well, like a couple of the first sentences you start to remember, especially when you're writing it. Like when I write something, it's instantly in my head. Like, so I'm a visual learner, so I don't need to practice something over and over again. So I do write a script, but the video is more like a web video. I think a lot of like you guys see that as well. If you were to watch one of those videos, it's more web
Right.
video, web based content. So what we do is since I work for the athletic department, I do get access and full access to pictures, videos, and like digital content, like I guess you could say like posters they make for their games or whatnot. So I do get access to all of those.
Hmm.
So it's nice because when we do our web video, if it's a shorter section, meaning like, oh, tennis traveled to Las Vegas, Nevada, they took on San Diego State and they lost. Like, you don't want to like, make them feel bad because, tennis and, some of those sports are not
Hmm.
really recognized as much just because they are, a smaller sport. So you want to make sure they feel
Hmm.
supported, they feel involved. So we make sure to add a lot of photos and videos. So it is an editing process and a talking process for sure, because don't get me wrong, there is some times where I'm like, what's up guys? And I'm like, I did not say that, right? Like, it takes time. And so it is like, at first I was like, oh my gosh, face of the pack, like Kailee, like you can't stutter, you can't talk fast. And at first I realized like, I would say 3 or 4 weeks of those videos of doing it, I was like, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, oh no, girl, you gotta fix that. So thankfully I can honestly say that I have progressed so much and that like everyone loves them. I get sent them all the time. So it definitely is, I guess, a good way to promote media in a different way, and especially with sports, because all of our athletes follow the Nevada Wolfpack page on Instagram, and that's where we highlight
Hmm.
everything, no matter if it's like the pack is handing out hot dogs in the quad. Like it doesn't necessarily just go on their Instagram, it goes on everywhere. So it's definitely became a big thing, and for not just the athletes but the students as well, because sometimes the students can't make a game and they want to know who won, what game are we
Hmm.
playing next, and are we ranked, are we not, like kind of all that. So I mention all of those, I give as much stats as I can. We always highlight at least 1 to 2 people in each section, and just kind of depends on like, if there was a really good game, and there's multiple people to highlight. If not, then we keep it down to 1. But that's what I do. And then social media side during basketball season was busy, obviously, as anyone can think about. Whoever's
Yeah, Nevada made March
Yeah, so
Madness.
well, yeah, we did, but it was a little rough. It was a little sad because their March Madness game was actually on my birthday this year. So I was like, "Come on, get a win for me!" And then
Mm.
obviously it didn't work out, but oh well. But yeah, during basketball season, it was super busy. Unfortunately, I like wish I got to travel with the team, but just because I am an intern, I don't get the full rights like the full timers do, which is great, which is totally fine. It's just that it'd be nice to travel. But during games, we would go up to fans for social media content and ask them like
Mm.
interviews, like, hey, why are you excited to be back in Lawler? That's our event center, that's where our basketball stadium's called. And like ask just random people like,
Mhm.
what food did you get today to make the men's basketball team win, like, and it just makes it funny and stuff. And then we always film um like their walkout, their starting lineups, the national anthem, just little things like that. We
Mm.
film and make sure that we're giving enough content for those viewers that again that can't be there, and that like say like there is people from other colleges, because there's a lot of kids that are, or I guess you could say athletes and students that do follow us from like Baylor or like UCLA, and they want to know what's going on. They're following it for a
Mm.
reason. So it definitely gives a clear representation to those other schools of, okay, they're very involved, they have a great social media, they have a great following. So that's kind of what we have to do. And then I started getting into taking photos. I've always loved taking photos,
Mm.
whether that's with friends, family, anything of me traveling. I travel a lot.
Mhm.
Or again, a rock, and I would love it. But I learned how to actually work a camera and some other like, I guess you could say video cameras recently from being in the athletic department, just to get those extra skills,
Mm.
because now I want to be a reporter. Okay, well, I'm doing the digital reporting, but now I have social media, content creation, and all those different kinds of things. So I was like, why not learn photography? So I did, and I'm getting trained by athletics of how to take an actual good photo, like the framing, the shutter speed, all this stuff. I'm like,
Mm.
oh my gosh, a reporter learning how to take photo. This is scary. And so I actually started taking good photos, and I'm, you could probably see me on CBS or something. I'm like running across the field with my SD card, putting it in the computer so we could post it on social media. But I actually learned how to, take photos. So that was really cool too. And I got to sit courtside and sit with my other partners that were also taking photos. So it was always cool to be like in the moment, because even if I wasn't taking photos, I was still on the court getting content, and through like the phone or through a camera that we transfer to the computer to post. So it was very I was very, very busy during basketball season. Now, since I am traveling and it is crunch time for me of like graduating and, trying to put myself out there and find a job, I have been coming back and forth to home a lot just for like interviews or, talking to people, getting my foot through the door kind of thing. So I haven't really worked much with baseball or softball this year. I have gone to games and done content, obviously, but not as much as basketball because basketball's such, there's 2 to 3 games a week. So
Right.
it is very different in I guess you could say when it comes to games because there baseball's the same way though. You can have a 4 game series or 3 game series or a 5 game series depending on like if it gets delayed. So there is that leeway of, oh, okay, I need time myself, but I love it because I love being on the go. So athletics made me that way because I never used to be like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, definitely, Kaylee, for what you're talking about, learning those other skills, like like you're learning how to use a camera on the on the sideline.
Yeah,
I mean, again, just I think it's very important for OFPs to not be so attached to one skill or like
exactly.
one area of like understanding, like how to be better at their position. I know for me, it was just I didn't want to just be a good broadcaster. I wanted to learn more about ticket sales. I want to learn more about sports marketing or like advertising in our arenas. Like at St. John's or like our there's even like team management.
Mhm.
I think it is important for people to be well rounded because I think when you think about like your first job in sports, whether it's full time or an internship, yeah, you're probably gonna be wearing a lot of hats. A lot of, doing a lot of different things on the clock. And I think it's important for you to have that flexibility and that open mindedness to be able to learn like a new thing on the fly. I mean, there are some things I was able to learn, in previous internships that I wasn't able to learn, maybe when I was in school. So I guess just having, overall open mindedness, asking questions about, just, a particular position that you may be curious about. Like maybe you probably don't see yourself ever working in that
Yeah.
department or working alongside that person you're talking with, but at least you like showing that sign of curiousness or curiosity, I should say, will help you better understand, oh, like, okay, maybe I just don't have to, hold a mic on the sideline or, oh, maybe I just don't have to hold a camera and take pictures. I could be doing a lot more or even, supplementing what I already know within the world I'm already doing
Mhm.
with, from another department. It's just another thing about, just food for thought. And even, you talking about Nevada because, again, like just thinking about, University of Nevada is in Reno, Nevada. And I like to call Reno baby Vegas because it's like yeah, it's like little like what's Reno's amount like the little
Yeah,
biggest smallest city in the
biggest
world or
little
something like that
city.
or
And we just got
biggest little
ranked
city in the
and we
world.
actually just got ranked, fun fact, the little biggest happiest cities. So the majority of people live there are happy.
Mm.
So interesting fact.
Yeah, and just with Nevada and their platform that they have as a university through their sports, it's not even just the university that they're reaching. They're reaching like the city of
Mhm.
Reno, the state of Nevada. Being in the Mountain West Conference, they're reaching like this one region of the United States. Just from all the sports and even with Nevada's basketball team making the tournament, they got national
Yeah,
coverage because and the beauty of your school making it the March Madness is that you're getting your school gets national coverage and also a little bit of money on the side too. So that's major importance right there. But Kaylee, I like what I like about doing interviews like this, especially informational ones or doing interviews for a free agent series. You know, I like to talk about just the different kind of adversity that people have faced, in regards to their like building their careers. And I think, just from previous interviews that I've done, most like believe it or not, but most of the interviews that I've done here on the Off Field Players podcast have mostly been with women in sports. And now like we're in a time to where like women in sports is like all the rage. I mean, you're hearing about women like getting C-level
yeah,
positions, becoming presidents of teams, becoming GMs, coaches. I mean, you're like just this new wave of what's always been a male dominant industry of women showing their talents and getting in high ranking positions and even just changing the narrative of what it's like to be a woman working in sports. So just asking you because you've mentioned how, transitioning over into sports journalism, you didn't come across a lot of people that looked like you, that were women working in sports. So I just want to know, like as far as your work experience or even your school experience, what was the moment where you had to deal with adversity or deal with, feeling like, you didn't belong, or, some imposter syndrome? Like, what was it like for you, and how were you able to combat those narratives that, some people unfortunately have about women working in sports?
So I love this question because it recently just happened to me. I set myself to apply to at least 20 places a day. Doesn't matter what it is. And I have always got told that no's are the best like thing to receive. And I've taken that great because every no I've got, I print it out and I put it on my wall because that means that they said no to a great person and they're going to regret their decision once they see me in the
Mm,
future. That's how I kind of think of it. I am very competitive, but it came
mm,
down to one instance where I referred a company and something did, I got an interview and they told me that they loved like hearing about me. They think I'm a great fit. And they literally told me that, sorry, but now that we're thinking about it, we think a man is better for this position. And I just remember in that moment, I was just like, I think my heart kind of dropped a little bit because, and I got
mm,
really emotional because in my head, I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. This doesn't seem right because I wouldn't have gone an interview if they thought I was like a girl. Like, do they think I was a man, Kailee Bryant? I don't know. I just like in my head, that's what you're thinking about. It's like, well, then why did I get an interview then? Like, I'd rather have just gone and told no. And so that
mm,
happened. Yeah, I turned off my phone for probably 2 days. I didn't go to class and I never go to class. Or I always go to class.
mm,
I never miss class. But I just wasn't in the right mindset. And I think is because it's also a company I really wanted to work for. And it was always been like, okay, if this company doesn't work out, this has always been my second one. So it was kind of rough hearing that. But in all honesty, I took that after those couple days. Like, obviously, it's not the best thing to hear in the world and it sucks, but I took that with the least grain of salt that there is
mm,
possible because I knew that, okay, if they're going to tell me this, then I can't wait for them to see what I'm going to be doing in the future. I can't wait to see them see me, what company I'm working at next or where I'm going to go because they're missing out. If they needed a man, then they lost it because I could be that male position if that makes sense. Like not like, oh, let me just, change to be a male. I could be that male person. I could be that dominance. I could, show you that I can work for your company. I can show you that I can have good time management, good deadlines and stuff. But they missed out. And that's why I keep saying to myself, it's like all these people that say no to me, it's like, great. Thank you for saying no. Actually, thank you for responding to my email because a lot of people don't respond. It's like I'd rather get told no than having me sit
mm,
and wait and patiently say like, am I ever going to get a response? So that was a very big eye opener. But at the same time, it was like, no, because my work here is not done. I'm not done. I'm not giving up. And people out there that are missing out on me. And that's kind of how you have to think about it because this field is so competitive and especially being a woman going into sports. By the way,
yeah,
big advocate for that because
right.
my grad cap, everybody, if you check out my Instagram, it says women in sports. Anyways, I love
Yeah.
women in sports.
Yeah, saw
Always,
that.
I've always been a big advocate for that. Not just because of Caitlin Clark or Angel Reese or all these other players.
Mm,
Like they're amazing, but it's also because we're so powerful, and that's what I got from that when that guy told me that. It's because little does he know women have so much more in them than someone else or a man does. Because I feel
right.
like people always say, well, women don't know anything like about sports, like they report false information or they make up stuff or they don't know anything about their stats. But it's like in reality, you don't know about that and you can't say that until you hear someone talk about it or you see someone else in a higher position than you killing it because they know what they're doing. And that's how I think about it because I'm very competitive
Mm,
and it's like I won't stop until I get something. I've always been taught like that. So in sports. If you don't make a bucket, then go get that ball and run down the court and make a bucket. Like, that's how it always has been raised. My parents are very hard on me, so that's what made me succeed and be who I am today. So again, I took that with a grain of salt, and here I am.
Yeah, as you should, Kaylee, because, and this is just, me speaking here. Like, it doesn't matter if you're a woman, a man. Like, if you have talent, you deserve an opportunity.
Exactly.
And I just think, and again, like we don't have to, like throw shade on the guy that, sent that email back to you saying like, oh, this role is preferred for a man. I mean, like, even just hearing that, I mean, it kind of, hurts. Like, in a way, it does hurt my feelings a little bit, because I'm thinking, well, I mean, it's almost kind of like a very classless thing to say to somebody. Like, it doesn't. Oh, this role is preferred for a man, or, oh, this role is preferred for a woman. Like, I mean, like, why even bring that up? Why just keep those thoughts to yourself, instead of just, exposing that to a person that you were, literally interviewing the job for, like, whether it was a woman or a man. I mean, just, I think that seemed pretty unprofessional to say, in a way. And I think this is just, kind of like a call to action, to where, it shouldn't, like I feel like we're living in a world now to where, people don't understand the importance of working, like, in a united environment. Because, the one thing I emphasize here on this podcast is, like, this isn't a podcast where, we're like, I don't like to talk, be politically correct about this, but, we don't emphasize, like, sexism or, racism in sports, because the thing about it is, the sports industry has become so open to different groups, is that, it's a reminder that, hey, you have to be a person that has to get along with anybody and everybody. It doesn't matter if they're like, if they're black, if they're white, if they're Hispanic, if they're a woman, if they're a man, if they're transgendered. Like, yeah, I'm gonna be real about this, because, like, yeah, there shouldn't be any place of discrimination in sports. It doesn't matter, like, especially in the front office. I mean, I just think, if you're focusing so much more on the talent that somebody has, and the results that they can bring to you, just like the results that you bring to Nevada's social media accounts and their athletic programs, just from the content that you help produce. I mean, it doesn't, like, dude, I would hire you. I would hire you just based on the results that you put out. And I'm not just saying that either, because, there's people that I've met that, were more deserving for, like, a full-time job somewhere, or like or that killed it at their internships, but just because of the basis of sex, or ethnic background, they were being held back. And yeah, I think nowadays, like, that narrative is starting to change more, because now sports teams and sports leagues are having, diversity, equity, and inclusion departments, which, is important. I know there's some companies or teams that are starting to dial back on that, but, at least, giving the effort to be open in application processes, especially for women. I mean, we definitely need more of that. And for you to, break down those barriers, for, like, just, just not have, like, a man tell you, like, oh, this job's for a man. I mean, like, I mean, credit to you for like, not taking that personally and using that as motivation, using that as fuel, because, it's definitely gonna, because, like, your work's definitely gonna show more. And, I always like to say that, just because you weren't somebody's first choice doesn't mean that you were their right choice.
Exactly.
And, that next step you're gonna take, like, first job you get after graduation, that's because someone's gonna pick you because they felt that you were their right choice.
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't know, like, if any other comment on that. I mean,
no, it's funny that you asked me a question like that, because a girl actually that is going to Utah actually reached out to me, and I never felt more power in myself and appreciated of myself, because she literally called me and was like, "Can I talk to you, please, and ask for your advice about being a woman in sports?" And I could not just, like, I told her how it was, and I was like, you know what? It's hard. It's so hard where it sucks sometimes. I said it doesn't matter if you're black, white, or Asian or anything. It doesn't matter. You're gonna struggle no matter what. Like the process of you getting told yes or no is a lot harder than you stubbing your toe or hurting yourself, like by maybe spraining an ankle. Like it hurts. It really does, and it's a different type of pain for sure. But again, like all those no's will add up. Yeah, of course. I'm probably at 100 right now. But at the same time, it's like they don't know what they're missing out on. They don't know about you. They don't know, maybe you weren't the best fit, but you might be fit for the next job they post soon. You never know. And I just told her, I was like, take every no like a yes in a way. I know that sounds dumb, but literally take it as a yes, because one day you're going to get that super, super yes in the actual email, and you're gonna be so fulfilled. And but I said, don't get down though if someone looks at you and says you don't know your stuff, because the amount of times I got told that by students at my school is actually insane, where they had to come up to me and apologize because they see my Wolfpack Weekly and then they say you do know your stuff. It's like, well, then you're going to go through stuff like that because one, they could be jealous. Two, they're probably not doing as much as you are and they want to. Or three, it's because maybe they don't like public speaking and they see that you're public speaking and you're doing a good job. You always have to give yourself credit. And I've learned that it doesn't matter what you do, what job, what sport, if you're an athlete or whatnot, you have to give yourself credit, because if you don't, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, there's some haters out there. There's some haters out there. Trust me, I come across haters all the time, and I just think, with like, if you know that you have like the, just like the self discipline, the self confidence to deflect those negative comments that come at you, that's what sets you out apart. Because I think, from what I've learned, like, with my time in the sports industry and in past internships, is that, there's some people that can be cutthroat. Some people that can, tear you down when you know that you're producing good work, and when your manager, your supervisor tells you like, oh, you're doing a fantastic job on what you're doing. But there's always going to be one hater. Like there always is. But I think this is not so much a testament to working in the sports industry, just as a testament to life. Like again, like I just don't talk about sports on this podcast. I talk about life lessons as well, especially from life lessons that I can speak on just from my experiences. And like I just think like we live in a world where like there's still bullies, there's still haters, there's still people that want to gossip and talk negatively about you. But if you're able to take that and develop that thick skin to not let that affect you in some way, I mean, you got nothing to worry about. You really don't. I mean, and it's just all smoke and mirrors at the end of the day. If someone tells you like, oh, you're not good enough, oh, you're not, like your work sucks, or oh, you're like you'll never make it as a sports broadcaster. I mean, that's just people that just don't have the confidence that they should have, and people that don't see the importance of being humble or being like influential. Because you could easily spot someone that's not humble or that's not influential or not self-motivated, because they're gonna throw all the hate like to somebody else that's doing what they wish they could be doing.
Exactly.
That's just life.
Exactly.
Yeah. And Kailee, this is, kind of like a more of like going forward into, like mentorship is something that I speak a lot about on the podcast. And I just want to know, just from the people that you've connected with either in high school or at Nevada, like it's like mentorship is an important part of career development. So who do you consider to be a mentor that helped you get your foot in the door in the sports industry?
So if I could say Erin Andrews, I totally would, but sadly I have not. Like, I connected with her, but I have not gotten a connection back. For those that know, I'm literally obsessed with her. But an actual mentor for me, I can't choose, because I don't know. Like, if I could choose, I have two people. Obviously, my dad has been the biggest supporter and my mentor, because I don't know if I would ever get into the sports industry if it wasn't for him, or how hard he pushed me to be the best I can be, because if I'm sorry, but I'm not a soft person. Like I'm very tough. I'm hard to, get through with some things. So it's like if I wasn't raised like that, or if I wasn't taught like that, then I don't think I would be in the position I am right now. And then I think the second person, actually organization, would be the Reynolds School of Journalism at University of Nevada, Reno, because they made me love school. I was even thinking of doing my master's, but I knew that like I do want to start my career right away and try and, get my foot through the door even more than I am doing now. But that school has developed me and changed me as a person. I can confidently say that I love public speaking. I obviously I love talking. I do. That's probably, if someone were to ask me what's Kailee Bryant like, literally she talks so much. I would love that, because that's what I do. I love talking, and I'm not gonna let that go to waste, because if I'm passionate about something, I'm gonna talk about it. And for this is sports. And so, you know, that that program, that school, that college, I mean, it's given me so much opportunities, so much connection, so much help. And the teachers in there, I've never ever once had a bad teacher in that program. Everybody has connections with me. Like the teachers, they can email me, I'll email them about anything and they will help me. And that's, I can't think or consider like two people as my mentor. I like that college is my mentor, and so is my dad. Like I seriously don't know, like, here without that sports background, without those two, I guess you could say, people, like the college as a person. So yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm sure your dad is going to be watch this episode when it goes up. So I'm going to hand my flowers to Mr. Bryant for raising such an incredible, talented daughter,
Thank you.
and also a daughter that's strong-willed and self motivated. So yeah, Mr. Bryant like handing me handing him his flowers for that. And just kind of just going a little bit more into the aspects of like we both said, like the sports industry is competitive. I mean, there's people that are either going to help lift you up or people that are going to try to knock you down whenever they get an opportunity to. So a question that like I guess, and we're trying to drill this into the ground, but we're going to do it anyway. So just in understanding the competitive nature of sports industry jobs, what would you say, Kailee, yourself, are some of the current challenges for someone that wants to work in the sports industry right now?
I would definitely say my number one is being a woman. I'm not like trying, again, to be political or whatnot, but definitely that's my number one, is being a woman going into a male dominated field for sure. The second one is not having enough skills. I've realized that, a lot of these companies that I've been applying to, or I've been really wanting the job from, like their qualifications list, like, yeah, do I meet half of them? Of course. I have a lot, but I don't at the same time. And I can't get beat up for someone that has more than me, or if they get the job, because honestly, they're more experienced, they have more skills. But I definitely think that's became like, not necessarily like the hardship of getting a job in sports, but it has shown, because if you have just talking, like, I guess public speaking, you can say, like broadcasting skills, it's like, okay, well, if you're trying to apply for a social media creation position, then you're probably not going to get it. And that's okay. It's just that I think that people and students and athletes, or whoever wants to get in the sports field, because I know a lot of athletes do, like they want to be sports reporters one day, or they want to do something with
Mm-hmm.
sports, is that it doesn't matter if you're an athlete, like, even though that you're busy, you're competing in college and you're doing all these things, like, don't be afraid to go get a certification somewhere, or go get other skills. I know so many athletes at UNR that are trying to work with the athletic department and like take photos for them, just so they can like put themselves out there as well. I think that's become something that is hard, and I don't think a lot of people realize that, because like, when you think of getting a job at sports, it's like, well, it's just because so many people want to work at sports. It's like, yeah, that is a case too. But at the same time, it's like, those people might not have the same resume as you. They might not have the same skills as you. They
Right.
might have not the same mindset. So I think that's another thing. And I also, the third point, I would say, like the hardship, I guess, or like, yeah, something that something that's trying to get overcome, and something that I've dealt with, is learning how to take no's, like we were talking about. I know a lot of people that like stopped wanting to like work in sports because they got so many no's. But I don't take, like, again, like we were just saying earlier, I don't want to repeat myself because people are probably like, dude, Kaylee, you just said that. But seriously, like those no's will all turn in yeses one day. And you know, you never know when you're going to get a yes. Like you could be waiting for an application to be processed for 2 weeks and you might get a yes that day and you don't know. And so I don't think a lot of people realize that it is hard and that it is a struggle when getting a job in sports, because sports is sports. It's not, you know, it's not nursing. It's not business. Again, it's very different. And I don't think people realize that. So I think those are 3 things that have been a struggle, in my opinion. Just me personally, just because I have gone through it, I'm still going through it because I am an upcoming graduate. But I think those are the main 3.
Yeah, and it's important that we do touch on this because because like this is a question I ask everybody that comes on, whether like they have a full-time job, whether like they're working an internship or they're looking for a job right now, because I just think with the hiring process, and we look at how other industries are going right now, you hear about the news about layoffs happening in tech, layoffs happening in, like, I'm hearing layoffs about happening in education. I'm hearing about layoffs happening in the nursing field. I mean, yeah, again, it's sad to hear. It's really sad to see as well. But I just think with the sports industry in particular, like there's a lot of demand. There's high demand, and the jobs, like, they're there if you can create them, and there if you can allow the budget to be delegated in particular departments, because there's so much that can be done that we're missing out on, especially with how, like, the growth of sports happening. I mean, you hear about leagues trying to get expansion teams, leagues trying, like, or teams trying to move to another city, for a better opportunity, or even all these different sports media companies that are starting up, whether they're like an entity of like a big name, say like a Barstool or like an ESPN or a Fox Sports, or anything like that. You hear about subsidiaries being created and creating more jobs. I mean, yeah, like there's going to be growth there, and I just think it's just up to like the people that are hiring for these positions to realize, hey, we can't be so fixated on trying to hire this person because they match with our company values. Maybe we have to go a little bit different to hire somebody that can help not be an entrepreneur, not entrepreneur, intrapreneur to the growth of an organization. Because I think if you're someone that's coming in with a with a set of skills, like those skills that are required, the experience, as well as also having an entrepreneur type mentality, to where you don't only want to represent the company from the inside, you also want to build the company on the inside as well. I feel like that's a challenge. That's something that can help debunk all the challenges that people are facing right now trying to find the job. And I think it's very important that we just speak on that.
Exactly.
Yeah. And Kaylee, also, just as far as just someone that's going through the application process soon to graduate, what advice would you give to someone that wants to work in sports but not be discouraged by the competitive application pool for sports industry jobs at the moment, especially with us just talking about the current challenges that are being faced?
Yeah, like I said, I just had that meeting with an upcoming freshman going into college wanting to be in sports. I will never forget what she told me. She was saying how she doesn't know what she wants to do in sports. Well, this is where I'm going to tell you my advice. Okay. Sports is so big. There's so much to do. There's so much to see.
It's massive.
It's huge. People think
it's a global brand.
Yeah, people
global industry.
It's basketball, soccer, football, and I don't know, swim maybe. The top sports in the United States? Okay, well, great. Well, you have tennis, you have rugby, you have cricket now, you have racquetball, whatever that is called. Like, you have all these other sports.
Auto racing.
Yeah. You have all these other sports where it's like that, like, it's big. So my advice is, one, don't take no's as a for sure no. Don't take yeses like if basically what I'm trying to say is don't take no's like a hard. Don't don't take yeses and like, yes, I got it. Like, what if I don't like it? It's like, well, make sure you keep your options open. Like I always tell people that ask me for advice or ask me like what classes to take. It's like, this is what you want to do. It's not what I want to do. So one, follow your heart. Follow what you want to do. Follow what makes you happy and want to wake up out of bed every day and say, I can't wait to go to work. I can't wait to report on swim. I can't wait to report on women's basketball today. And not, I don't want to go to work. I don't want to see this person. I don't want to be here. It's like you want to be happy, you want to be confident, you want to be self-driven in your career. And what I tell everybody is like, if you know you don't like something, then don't do it. If you want to do something in sports and you didn't
Mm.
get the job, go get that skill. Go get that certification. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, there is free certifications out there that takes you what, 2-3 hours of your day when you have free time, and take that. Because honestly, like that will make you shine more. And another thing is I usually tell people is I can go in depth about it, but I kind of like, said it throughout the podcast. But my other thing is don't be afraid to step on toes or to annoy, people to the point where they're like, Kaylee, can you stop emailing me? I will tell you right now, I'm so good at that where it's not to be cocky,
Mm.
but I love annoying people. I love
Yes, you are.
I
Yes, you
love
are. Oh
annoying
man.
people. I love emailing people. I love getting in their ear because let me tell you, if they give you an application and they respond to and they give you a no, and you email them every day after that or whatnot, they will remember you and how you were annoying and how you would always, reach out to them because there's someday that they're either going to have to say yes or they're going to accept you for another position because one, they know that you want it, or two, because you're showing that you're hardworking, you're dedicated to work in this company. So all I'm going to say is don't be afraid to make those connections that you don't want to make because you're scared. Make them, because one day you might end up in a place where you're living life, you're loving it, you're waking up every day saying, I love what I do. And I am so passionate about that because I do it myself, where I do reach out to those people. I do bug them, and I know they probably don't like it, but it's like if they were in my shoes trying to get a job like they probably did in the past, they were doing the same thing. So don't ever think people are judging you,
Mm.
talking bad about you. They probably are saying, yeah, this girl's annoying, let's give her a job. So again, that's what I would say. That's my advice. I'm so strongly passionate about that just because again, I'm going through it. So, I know how it feels. And it's like for those that are afraid to do that or afraid to do some of the things that I said, it's just like, don't, because at the end of the day, it's like something might work out and you gotta be positive. You gotta be in the positive in the sports world, especially.
Abs- Absolutely. I know, and recently, a good friend of mine, and he's probably gonna watch this when he gets the time to, but he told me, you know, like the best advice he gave me was, leave everything on the table.
Hmm.
Leave everything on the table, do everything, like exercise everything that you can about your role that you're currently in, or even, in a way, just continue to represent yourself before you go and represent somebody else. At least, that was something that, I reminded myself to do is that, hey, I'm going to do everything I can to represent myself in the best way before I go represent somebody else. And hopefully they can appreciate the value that they have, or that they have for me, for being someone that's was able to represent themselves to representing them like on a bigger platform. And I think that's another thing that we can add on to that, to where, just, don't, again, like, leave everything on the table. Don't be afraid, and, to ask questions, to, let people know how bad you want it. And also, just, continue to represent yourself in the best way.
Exactly.
I just think, it's very important to touch on. But Kaylee, I'm not going to keep you too long, but I do have one more question to ask
Yes.
before we wrap it up here. You've been a pleasure to have on, and even just, with you emphasizing, why you deserve a place in the sports industry. like I always like to ask people, before they leave, what piece of advice would you give to the OFPs that will hear from you? And what is something that you're hoping for yourself going forward?
Definitely what I'm hoping going forward is, again, I graduate in 2 weeks. So yeah, I do want an internship or a full-time job. That's a dream. That's a dream. But, if I don't, then that's more time for me to apply to that one organization that will pick me one day. So my advice to everybody and to my OFPs is literally
There we go.
um is I guess I have nothing. I have nothing, just because it's like, just don't give up. Like I'm so passionate about that stuff, where it's like I'm trying not to give up because I never will, but I guess my mentality to ever think that I will, because I don't want to give up. But yeah, I can't, because I just want this person to know, just like, basically, if you need someone to talk to, then you need to go talk to those people that you can trust, whether it's your family, your teachers, people that are familiar, like, talk about, like, your career. Talk with those people that you know that will help you succeed, because there are people out there that say that they'll be there for you, but later on they're either jealous or they won't tell you what you want to hear. And it's, obviously not every piece of advice or information is going to be happy. Like, we weren't born that way to get, if we were all happy, or if we were all given positive information, none of us would be sad. And that's not why we were made. We all have different lives. We all have different ways we go about things. So my best advice is, don't have any regrets. Like don't live in the moment of regrets. Like, wake up every day saying, like, if that's what you want to do, like, you want to reach out to that person, then do it. Don't regret not doing it. Don't regret not filling out that application. Even if it's what, not paid, and it's $12, say it's $12 an hour, or if it's not paid, it doesn't matter if it's not paid. It doesn't matter if it's $12 an hour. It doesn't matter if you don't get any days off. It's like, if you're wanting to do this and you're passionate, do it. And it's and I just don't have anything else to say, because it's like, I just want people to know, like, if you're super passionate about it, then you will do it. And that's it. That's it. Like, don't give up, be positive. Don't hang your head low. If you're an athlete out there and playing a sport, and you're with school of like trying to be a sports reporter, do the dang thing. Do it. Because if you can do it, if I can do it, then you can do it. Even if you're an athlete, you can do it. Because let me tell you that athletes have a lot more advantage, which is perfectly fine, but they do. And I respect that 100%, because I wish I was an athlete. I wish I went to school to run track. But it's like, I'm now having to work hard. Don't ever stop. I run through brick walls for anything. And especially in sports, like, that's what I was known for, running through a brick wall, because I was so hardworking. It's like, I want to be known for that, for the next company, or for that company that hires me, because that's what I would do for anybody, not just for sports industry, but that's just how my personality is. So that's what I would say for the OFPs.
Yeah, well, for anybody that's a hiring manager at Fox Sports or CBS or NBC, ESPN, hire her ASAP. Like, you're like you're missing out on a great talent here, and and this is just a testament to what I want to do, how I want the podcast to be represented, to where we have these feel good stories about folks that come on here that are growing within their careers, that are, especially when they're young. I just want people to grow and build off of just what they speak on and what they believe in, and trying to become like the next success story in this career. I mean, again, the free agent series started off with Miles Jenkins, again, a recent graduate trying to look for a job, who wanted to work in soccer. And proud to say, 2 months about 2 months after we did that episode, he was able to find a coaching job for a high school soccer team. So there's been success coming from that so far already. I mean, like, we're batting 1,000 right now, folks. So hopefully, we get Kailee to be the next one, so we go 2 for 2. And I hope that the next time I look at her LinkedIn profile, I can see a job update for herself after graduation.
I appreciate it.
Kailee, Yeah, it's been a pleasure having you on doing this interview. I mean, you are, you're the real deal. I mean, you're like, your passion for what you want to do in sports, being a sports reporter. I mean, it's second to none. And I just, hope that this episode and this message can not only, benefit you, like for, like you trying to, get your first job out of school and to be full time in the sports industry. But I also wanted to benefit the people that are going to be watching this, so they can receive motivation to not give up, to break through barriers, to face the challenges that they'll come across in the application process head on. Not feel discouraged about what people say to them in regards to what their talents or their gifts present about them. That's the big payoff for what I hope this episode and this podcast can continue to do moving forward. So thank you for that.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate you taking the time, because I did just travel down the hill today, so I am a little, not under the weather, but I am a little tired. I had class this morning, so I just want to say thank you, because I love doing this. Again, I love talking, so you hit me up with the good person, because I love it. But I'll never be too tired to talk to you and to, OFPs that are wanting to hear this. So again, thank you so much. I had so much fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Kailee Bryant, everybody, thank you again for tuning into the Off Field Players podcast. Want to wish everybody a safe day, safe weekend. And also remember, make sure to follow the podcast on social media, on Instagram at OFP_podcast. Again, it's at OFP_podcast. We're also on TikTok, same username at OFP_podcast. And also for people that are watching this video on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share with anybody that's interested in trying to work in the sports industry. And also, if you're listening to the audio version of this, make sure to continue to follow and support the podcast on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Radio Public. I mean, trying to do everything we can to grow the OFP family. And we just add a new addition with Kailee Bryant.
Yay!
So thank you again for everybody that tuned in. Kailee, again, congratulations on completing your academic career at University of Nevada.
Thank you.
Can't wait, to hear about graduation, see all the pictures come out, and yeah, just continue to be you, continue to keep going forward. Everybody here from the Off Field Players podcast is rooting for you and your career success. So definitely keep it going.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I enjoyed it.
All right, so that's going to wrap it up for me. My name is Philip Hall, along with Kailee Bryant, my guest for today. Want to wish everybody a safe weekend. Stay healthy, stay safe, stay motivated. And as always, make sure to achieve what you believe.
Woohoo!